Then the Sun Came Up. Written and narrated by Dyson. Chapter 1, Part 2. The war lasted just a few minutes, but that proved to be an eternity to Matthias and his mother. The two of them found themselves imprisoned by time, strangled by the sadness of betrayal and mauled by the misery of defeat. For Bella, within each passing second, her adversary became less her husband and more her willingness to surrender. "Never again," she exclaimed, thinking of the countless days she allowed Matthias to witness her caving into his father's rants and what impact that would likely have on his future. When the war was over, silence filled the room. Matthias stood awkwardly in the quiet, witnessing his father stumble into the shadows before his eyes locked in on his mother. She was lying still on the floor, about 6 feet away with her back to him. Her body glowed within a single beam of sunlight that streamed in from a tiny window hung high above the kitchen sink. The boy was waiting for his mother to move, for her to react in typical Bella Sloan fashion, for her to moan just a bit while slowly picking herself up from the floor, casually surveying her wounds and downplaying them in his presence. She then, of course, would direct him to bring her the usual order of supplies from the hallway closet, which were always 2 white towels, a bottle of peroxide, and her tiny box of surgical sutures whenever stitches were necessary. Worrying less over the consequence of disobedience, Matthias took a slow step towards his mother and could feel the air in the room chill. "Mama," he whispered, and like a placid lake pressed against a levee in the eye of a hurricane, the boy's emotions broke free. He then rushed his mother, crashing to his knees, and could see that her dress was ripped around the neck and waist. He couldn't overlook the fact that its lace was soiled with her blood. Tears flowed like rivers down the sides of his face while he tugged on his mother's arms and legs, trying to get her to make a sound. Desperately to hear the order. He felt an odd calmness in that. "You need the towels?" he asked, trembling with fear. He was waiting impatiently for a response, and when he heard nothing, he worked diligently to roll his mother over onto her back so that her voice wouldn't be absorbed into the floor. Guilt, however, had weakened him. He had chosen then to leap over his mother's body to face her. What he saw then was her eyes wide open, piercing his soul. It didn't take long after that for anger, regret, disappointment, and hatred to fuel the boy. Its purpose was to cover up his sadness and shame. Looking into his mother's eyes, Matthias fell limp beside her and would have laid there forever if the local police and paramedics hadn't arrived and broken down the front door. They took his mother away and officially announced him Harlem's newest orphan. At 10 years old, Matthias considered it his duty to assist those officers in dragging his father out of the shadows and into a prison cell. But by the age of 16, the boy that had grown sick of group homes and perverted and money-grubbing foster parents had changed his mission entirely. It was then that he realized that he too was living in the midst of darkness, and therefore considered himself the best person equipped to find his father and serve out justice. For Matthias, he figured throwing his father in a prison cell for any number of years would no longer suffice. He was now convinced that the only way for justice to be served was for his father to suffer a slow and agonizing death.